Welcome back to today's Explainer. We're jumping right in, and I want you to picture someone, our protagonist, an everyday security analyst. Every morning, this analyst logs in, grabs a coffee, and is completely ready to defend the organization. But instead of stepping onto a clear, manageable battlefield, our hero walks straight into this dark, dense, terrifying forest of data. It's a stressful daily expedition just to figure out what's actually threatening the network.
Because the second they log in, the dashboard just lights up. We're talking thousands of alerts hitting the average security team every single week. Imagine trying to do your job with this absolute barrage of pings, red flashing lights, and system notifications firing off nonstop at blinding speed. It's pulling our analysts in 100 different directions at once. And you know the craziest part? Most of these alerts simply don't matter. But hidden somewhere in that massive avalanche of noise are the critical ones, the real attacks, and they're completely buried.
And this constant, unending barrage, it brings our hero right to rock bottom. Look at this quote because it perfectly captures that feeling. When everything looks urgent, nothing feels urgent. Just sit with that for a second. If every single ping is categorized as a level 10 emergency, your brain eventually just numbs to it. You literally lose the ability to distinguish a minor software glitch from a catastrophic system breach.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this condition is arguably one of the most common problems in cybersecurity today. It's called alert fatigue. It's exactly what it sounds like, a condition where overwhelmed teams just stop triaging carefully. They physically and mentally cannot keep up with the sheer volume, so they start missing critical items, and ultimately, they experience severe, crushing burnout in the process. It's a massive human toll just as much as a technical failure.
Moving on to Section 2, Unmasking the Noise Generators. We're looking at the three culprits here.
So, where is all this paralyzing noise actually coming from? Well, these are the three main villains attacking our team's dashboard every single day. First up, vulnerability scanners. These things are notorious for flagging every single CVE, that's common vulnerabilities and exposures, that technically applies to your software. But they do it completely blindly, regardless of whether that vulnerability is actually reachable or exploitable in your specific environment. Second, we've got threat feeds. They push every new indicator they collect, dropping this massive data dump right on your desk, whether or not it has any relevance whatsoever to your industry or your geography. And finally, SIEM systems. These generate alerts based on incredibly broad rules that simply catch way too much. It's basically a dragnet pulling in absolutely everything.
That brings us to Section 3, Finding the True Signal. Let's talk about a new way to fight back.
Because our protagonist doesn't have to just sit there and take it. Finding the true signal means asking a totally different set of questions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this very first rapid-fire filter our analyst must ask. Does this vulnerability have a public exploit? If the answer is no, it immediately drops down the priority list. Boom, noise reduced.
Next, is it being actively used in attacks right now? We aren't looking at theoretical problems here, right? We are looking for clear and present dangers. If it is not being used by attackers in the wild at this very moment, we filter it right out. Keep moving.
Third question, does it affect the system that is actually exposed to the internet? Think about it. If a vulnerability exists on some isolated server buried deep inside an internal network with zero external access, the immediate threat level absolutely drops. This question progressively and aggressively narrows down our protagonist's focus to what can actually be touched by the outside world.
And finally, we have the ultimate fog-clearing question. Is this threat actor known to target organizations like mine? If a threat feed gives you data on an attacker that only goes after, say, agricultural firms in Europe, and you're a financial firm in North America, filter it out. Filtering out those irrelevant industries and geographies finally clears that remaining fog right off our analyst's screen.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive transformation we've just achieved. We started with raw data on the left, hundreds of CVEs and dozens of feeds causing complete and utter chaos. But when you layer those 4 specific filters onto the data, you get an actionable list on the right. The genuine threats that actually require attention finally become a list our hero can manage.
But let's move to Section 4, the manual filtering trap. This is the impossible task.
Look, we know the exact questions to ask to filter the noise now, but there's a huge catch. Applying those brilliant filters manually across hundreds of incoming threat feeds, that's literally an impossible task for our human hero to do alone. And that brings us to our ultimate resolution, AI ThreatLens. This platform was built specifically to act as the automated savior, doing all that heavy lifting by cutting through the noise automatically.
By visiting AIThreatLens.org, you can see exactly how the platform surfaces only what truly matters, rescuing our analysts from that dark forest of data once and for all.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial thought to consider as we wrap up today's explainer. Are you still fighting a machine's war with manual tools? Really think about that. If the noise is automated, your filtering absolutely must be too. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I'll see you in the next explainer.